then what, like Hideaway and then sing Hideaway? And that is
wow.
game over.
This is easy.
Greetings and salutations, my fellow Illumineers. It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another Lorcana video. Dedication, determination, drive, motivation, a prepare to win attitude. That is what's required to be a champion in this game. In the building with me today, I have none other than someone who manifests all those characteristics. In the building with me today, I have none other than your DLC Australia champion. With me, I have Dinh Khang Pham. I call him DKP. You can call him Khan. Welcome to the program, big dog. How you feeling? How you living?
Yo.
How's life?
Yo, what's up, Eddie? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm feeling great. Of course, you always feel great when you win something, right? Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and talk with you about Lorcana, about DLCs, and yeah, everything that revolves around that.
I just wanted to reach out to you, man. I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan of your work. You set yourself apart. You're definitely one of the top 5 players in this game in our first year, and I just want to take some time to get to know you. Okay, so first, how did you start playing TCGs? How did you get into this game? And just tell me something about yourself.
So TCG basically started with me playing a little bit of Magic, basically. I started, I think, when I was 18, so 11, 12 years ago. I started playing Magic at a Friday night Magic. Like, I just saw it. I bought like a small deck building box, like this really cool starter thing. I enjoyed the competitive side of it because I always played something like Hearthstone and so on, you know, like, and tried to play it more competitively, but also didn't know how to. And when I discovered Magic, I learned how to use like Card Market, which is our TCG player basically, where you can get cards, like how card value works and so on. I learned that in Magic. Only played it for like, I don't know, 2-3 months, not that long. And then at some point when I was in the university, my friend brought me to a draft locals basically for Magic, and there were people playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's how I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! I literally just am there, watch them play instead of playing the draft. Played Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid, like probably most kids in my age, and but never had the courage to go to the locals basically because I was intimidated basically, right? If you're like, oh, they're all pros, and you're like with your kitchen table deck, but that's not it, right? So I saw that and I was totally hooked by the entire environment, that everybody meets up like once or twice a week and just play the hobby, like the TCG, enjoy the time together. And that's why I started Yu-Gi-Oh! The year afterwards, 2016, I started to travel for TCG, like going to nationals, you know, like regionals in around the corner. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals are smaller tournaments where you can also get your invite for European continentals. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is much easier to get the invite, but in general, you can attend these kind of tournaments. Go to YCSs, which are the DLCs of Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically build a circle around you where you have your friends. You always have the same people to go to events, and that's where it all started, like enjoying these kind of trips. Not even the event itself, but just having your circle of friends who you're testing with, where you grow as a player, maybe also as a person, because life situation changes for everybody, right? So at some point your friends get kids and family, and then you grow with them, mature with them. And that's an aspect I really like about TCG. And yeah, that's where I basically come from. I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically for a bit. I didn't like the remote aspect. Like I still don't really like playing remote, only if I have to. So I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point. Also didn't look into other TCGs because no TCG was allowed to play real life. Then I made a comeback in Yu-Gi-Oh! Played until the middle of 2024. There were the national seasons like May, June, or Europeans. And I played the French national. I had a small talk with a prominent Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, Hani Javari, and he just told me about Lorcana. Was always interested in Lorcana, especially because I saw the Golden Mickey. I'm like, oh, I want that Golden Mickey, you know? And he just pushed me, like in one talk, in 1 hour, basically, he just pushed me into Lorcana, and that's where I started it. Bought all the cards I needed for Red Blue because he told me, play Red Blue. You are the kind of guy that will like it because he knows my playstyle. Yeah, so I bought every single Red Blue card that was meta relevant. I looked through every single deck profile, you know, like on Ink decks or whatnot. I clicked through all the decks and looked up what staple do I need, and if I saw it on one list, I just bought the playset. And then I went through the entire list and also bought a little bit of purple, like everything that was available for purple at set 4. So I could also play red purple, which is also like a mid-range controller deck, which also suits me really much. But I still stick to Ruby Sapphire mainly. I had that talk. I looked up events, and at that point, DLC Fort Worth in Dallas was sold out 2 weeks ago. I just went randomly. I saw a link on Facebook. Someone posted his list, his confirmation that he got a ticket, and it was like 2 weeks old. So I clicked on the PVG link, and there was a ticket, a single ticket. And I just click on buy. I'm like, okay, I got it. And was sold out immediately. So it was so fun. And like Fate told me to play. Yeah, that's how I got into my first DLC event. Not the first event, but my first ticket basically for the event.
But you did mention that you travel. You got out there, start traveling, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But you also travel in Lorcana. You've gone to a significant amount of DLCs all over the world. I call you Mr. International, going all over multiple continents now at this point, playing in the DLCs. I gotta ask, how can you do this? What is your life? Can you just let us know, how are you able to go to these to all these different DLCs all over the world?
Basically, first my motivation was I started traveling for Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically in the end of 2023 and throughout 2024. I just started traveling to American events, which I never did before. Like I could have done it like 5 years ago or so, but I never did. Also lacking the courage and fearing, it's like losing a lot of money and so on. But when I got motivated to start Lorcana, I looked up how many DLCs were left. At that time, I think there were 6 were left, I think, 3 in each continent. And I was like, okay, I will get a ticket for each one and try it. I would just try it. I will basically invest because I want to have a shot to get the Mickey Mouse and the invite. I always want both invites, but I didn't expect to get it. But it was a dream, So how I have time for that is basically in Yu-Gi-Oh! Times already, I'm a card vendor basically, doing coaching, doing winning promos basically, and trading a lot. And that's why I'm basically I'm self-employed, but I'm also basically taking the time whenever I want. That's like my advantage basically. When you read my tweets or my reports basically, or how I train a lot, you will think, oh damn, he has a lot of time. And yeah, I do, because I can take my time. That's fortunate for me. I can take the time whenever I want. That's not, of course, not a fortune that everybody can take a part of. But yeah, I have it, so I have to use it. And I travel, or like I don't really like to travel that far for the events, to be honest. Like I don't really enjoy it because every time I do travel, I don't do much of a vacation. Like sometimes I go do some small trips and so on, but I always normally travel in like Thursday or Wednesday before the event and leave at Monday. So I don't stay like a week long or so because I also have obligations and so on, and I cannot stay like 2 weeks or something like that, and do a little vacation after each event because I mean I have to visit like 9 events, right? 9 major events in Lorcana, 7 DLCs, 2 continentals, and imagine just taking 1 or 2 weeks off additionally. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I cannot do that. But yeah, I like to compete. I like to meet new people. You're always chatting online with pro players or with normal players, and then you're meeting up, talk a bit, tell your stories. It's always fun. I enjoy it a lot.
And you definitely embody the role of the pro player because you're absolutely traveling to all the events. You're the only player that played in both of the Continental Championships. Which one was better? Which Continental Championship had the better vibe? Which one did you enjoy more? Or what were some of your favorite events that you played this season?
I have to say the American one had better food.
Okay.
Definitely. Organization-wise, technically I like the NA a bit more, but the one thing that bothered me a lot was that they announced that there will be no intentional draws allowed directly when we sat down for the player meeting. Like, wow, you cannot announce that literally at the tournament, like when we about to play, Like, that's a major rule. They turned off an official ruling that is in the rule book, which is okay. I mean, you can do that, but not really at the same time when you start the tournament, right?
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a bummer. European one, in Paris. Basically, it felt a bit more VIP-ish, I guess.
Okay.
Because it was in a room and in the basement, basically. But it's like still a beautiful room. There weren't many less people around, also because we had less players, right? It just felt a bit more VIP-ish.
Okay.
I liked the NA one a bit more.
I'm certain your favorite event was this last DLC down in Australia. I know you went down there and you got to the absolute dub in that event. So I know that had to be your overall favorite event. I would only imagine, right?
For my score, yes.
No.
Organization-wise, I like the NA one again the most. They always felt like improving after each DLC, and yeah, I like them most. Yeah, the Australian one was a blast, of course.
So here is the deck list that if you've been living under a rock, okay, and you haven't paid attention, here is the deck list that DKP or Kong brought to that event. And I think you really destroyed the game with this one. I can't go anywhere without seeing this deck being played in heavy rotation in high numbers. I've tried it myself. This deck's incredibly difficult to use. So everyone out there watching at home, make sure you get the reps in before you try to load this thing, because it's not the easiest deck to use. But DKP, I love this deck. I think it's cool. I think it's clean. It's very intentional, and I really enjoy it. Can you just briefly go over how you came up with this deck again? And also, down in the description, make sure you guys go check out DKP's channel. He went through all the details of how to play this deck, and he went over a lot of information for this deck. Go support him. He did a deck profile, so we're not going to go over all the card by card, but I just want some ideas just for the channel so you guys can hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. So the deck itself was basically going through multiple cycles. In the beginning, I always had the idea to build a bit different kind of Ruby Sapphire, right? If you saw my list. When I started, right, Lorcana right out, I didn't play the CC on Ice because I tested it. After like 3-4 games, I was like, damn, the uninkable, like these uninkables break me so much, and cards like Ophago bring me forward, Be Prepared advances me forward. And these kind of cards were always like my favorites in the deck. So that's why it's always a playset basically for me. So that means my deck building is always like a bit more, how should I put it? It's a bit more closed basically, because I have many cards that I don't want to run less than 4. So especially the unnings, right? When it comes to deck building, your unning count is really important. And in Ruby Sapphire, the unning count was always high. So with this list, finally, I basically solved the issue that your unning count is high. With this list, I only run 8 unnings, right? My first cycle was I run a mix between the burn aspect, like the shark, and the control aspect with Tamatoa for my European Championship. I didn't have the courage to cut the Tamatoas because I explained a lot in my post and my video. The old knowledge, basically meaning whatever you experienced in the earlier sets, right? And what you think about your deck and so on. It's really like rooted in you, because you played so much Ruby Sapphire, and now you are like, these cards are mandatory, right? So this is like a huge problem when it always comes to deck building, that you are relying too much on the older information. Because after each set, in my opinion, or like a huge meta shift, there should be like a new evaluation phase where you are like looking through everything again. Even the cards where you think it's a mandatory card, you should think about it again and think, is it like still a mandatory card? Is it fast enough? Is it good enough? Does it really advance my game state? And like in European Championship, I should have played the Magdak Manners. I saw the Magdak Manners on the Friday. I didn't play it. I didn't have the courage again to just radically change my list so much before the tournament, which you shouldn't do, but I should have done because I can deal with that probably better than some other people. So I should have done that. I still went with that. The strategy itself was still fine. I lost out because of my own misplay, so it wasn't even the deck's fault, but it would be much easier with the Magdak Manners, going more into the route of I would just get to 20. Doesn't matter how many hand cards I have and so on. And then now with this deck, the second cycle, I went through like infinite test matches. I learned like 400, 500 test matches to figure out, okay, where's the real problem in my list? Whereas then I figured out, for example, Tamatoa is not it. Tamatoa is like a card that is really good in the control version, but not in my version, because it's playing really tight on just getting to 20. And I cannot basically waste hand cards that, of course, Tamatoa is strong, but most of the time when I play Tamatoa, he's either too slow, or in the Ruby matchup, he won't stick because they just Tremaine it, Maleficent it, B-Prep, whatever. So I need cards, when I play them out, they have an impact in terms of like lore gain, or they gain me additional cards instantly while not costing 8. For example, Tala also gets me a card like Popsicle of Tamatoa, right? But it only costs 4 and doesn't cost me 8. Also, I can look into the top 2 cards and not only one with Popsicle. So that's like so much more speed that I need to get to my lore gain cards. And I figured that out after a while. Then in the NA Continentals, I ran basically this list, -1 Tala, -1 Hiram for 2 big Sisus, the 8 cost, because I thought I needed the ward wipe. So I went with that because I thought that Amber Steel was a threat, which is, of course, it is a threat, but I should have realized earlier that 8 cost is way too expensive to be a fast ward wipe. Because in my deck runs different, right? You said it. It's really hard because it's plays a bit more unintuitive and also not like a Ruby Sapphire control deck. You don't ramp fast into 8 and 9. You ramp fast into 6, maybe into 7 when you want to do B prep, but that's it. Normally what I do is like I don't ink into 8. I only ink into 8 because I had the Haufago or like 2 Haufagos basically most of the time. And then you're going into the 8 and 9 territory. That's why you don't see big Sisu in my list. You don't see Maleficent. Although Maleficent is inkable, which is, of course, plays really well into the consistency of the deck. I don't run it because 9 is so expensive. You don't reach 9 normally on a normal curve. Like, your opponent probably will reach 9 before you reach 9. That's the problem. And they don't ramp. So I don't run these kind of cards. And now what I ended up with is this hyper consistent, low unink, really fast paced Ruby Sapphire deck, like faster than a normal Ruby Sapphire, of course, and a deck that has a clear game plan of getting to 20, of course, without doing like all the fancy stuff that the control build is doing. I'm not saying the control build is bad. It's like I just prefer this build because the matchup spread is different. Basically, the matchup spread here for this deck is the mirror match like against normal Ruby Sapphire and Ruby Amethyst is really good. Like you are really favored into it. Like something like basically almost all Amethyst decks you are favored into. Amethyst Steel is a bit problematic. It depends on how they play and how they first the deck list, of course, but second, which is more important, how they actually run the deck, because there's a specific gameplay which I won't tell that you can do to beat this deck like quite often, but people don't know it yet. So
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Don't divulge too many of your hidden techniques. I don't.
Yeah.
I would say this set is almost over anyway, man. This is old technology. You already moved on to the next thing already, I'm sure. But you said you played 400 test matches. Is that correct? 400 test games. Where are you playing 400 test games and against who? I gotta know.
So right now, I don't know if you should mention it, but look.
First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
I also test against myself quite a bit. I basically play both decks, right? My own deck and my opponent's deck. And I just don't lie to myself and play around everything my opponent, so my other side has.
Yeah.
So I just, play open-handed with both sides.
Okay.
That also helps a lot because I just want to figure out certain stuff, right? I'm a player who is really sure about this list and so on. Like I have certain goals always when I play, and that's important that everybody should have. It's just difficult sometimes to formulate like what you actually want to achieve with this test session, right? For example, I want to one time I play like only like 6 or 8 games matches where I want to figure out, is my optimal go curve on the draw always goofy into Rush Maui, which happens in the end. This is most of the time it's the most optimal line, right? I figured out when I want to go for it. Like it does highly depend, for example, on Tipo and Sale or whatever I opened. Then I need the Goof more and the Rush more. Sometimes I need a second Rush more. Like I figured out all the lines by just doing really specific test sessions where I let my opponent, so myself, open a certain sequence of cards, right? Then I want to figure out, okay, to beat this sequence, what do I need? And sometimes you just cannot beat a certain sequence, right? Then you have to accept it. But then I know where's the line. I can pull that where I know I will lose or win this match. And that happened a lot, for example, against like Amber Steel, the aggro version, the Diggy Diggy Hole, where you sometimes cannot beat the curve. Like if they start Daisy Piglet, Daisy whatever else, like another 2-drop Lilo, then it's over. You literally cannot beat that with my list. But that's fine because they don't open it. Sometimes they open Cindy, Smee, and then one goof takes out Smee, maybe takes out Cindy, then it's already over. So that's something people need to realize when it comes to testing, because they always try to basically beat everything, cannot cover everything. If you can cover everything, your deck is literally tier 0.
Yeah.
But what happens then is they try to cover everything and then they put like suboptimal cards, because then you beat that certain scenario, but then you lose into everything else because you put like most of the time it's uninkable cards. And then what happens is you clog your deck so much that you need to rely on high rolls. Like my deck, where you saw on stream how often I just mulligan for 7. I didn't have ramp, and a normal traditional red blue, they need to keep like Popsicle, for example. I never kept Popsicle, I just went full ramp, full 7 for ramp. I think one time I kept the popsicle because I was just gambling. I think it was in the finals because we had 5 games. I was like, I tried to gamble one time, I think, but then I missed ramp, I think, in that game. So yeah, don't do that. Yeah, this is like a small deck building advice I can give people, I guess.
Okay. I like this deck. I like this deck a lot, man. I really, like I said, I really do believe it's super revolutionary, super outside the box. You definitely were forward thinking on it. I know we're at the end of this set, and like I said, this technology is probably going to be old, but if there's anyone still playing this deck, and if they still have any events to come up, is there anything you would make, any changes you would make to this deck that you think would that you've learned now and since you've been playing and since you've seen maybe to prepare more for the mirror or to prepare more for people who are counter picking this deck? Because I went to a tournament and I played a deck very similar to yours, and this thing was like 50% of the field, and it was the mirrors, like, oh my goodness, it was just so unfun. But is there any tips you would give is there any tips you would give to like have someone alter the deck to maybe face the mirror or to now that the cat's out of the bag?
Yeah, so there's a lot to say in that regard. So first things first, the people say like, oh, it's all almost over and so on, right? But the thing you have to think about is I introduced a new archetype for this color combination, right? There were like close deck lists, but they were never like this refined. So people always say, yeah, I have a similar list, and then they ran like 2 manas, no develop your brains, and then a few more items. I'm like, this is not the same list. Yes, you run similar cards, you run a similar concept, but it's not closely the same list. Because this list, if I had to run Australia again, I literally cannot change a single card because every single card in this deck has a purpose and it's really meticulously calculated. Like I have, again, over 500 matches, like it's closer to 800 plus. I don't really remember the count because I at some point I stopped taking notes. Like so many matches into it. And it's not only that I run matches, I analyze every single match. I analyze every single card choice and ratio, like a lot. Like when I'm sitting around or I'm doing something like washing the dishes or whatever, I'm literally thinking about my ratios, even now, like still about this deck, like, or maybe in the future or other decks, but I think about ratios and what cards are good in the meta and so on. So you cannot change much. I wouldn't change anything personally when I have a tournament this Saturday, right? 200 players or so. I won't change a thing.
Salutations again. During the editing process of this video, DKP actually went to this tournament and came in first place using this exact same deck list. So maybe you guys should pay attention because maybe the player knows exactly what they're talking about. All right, back to the show.
First, I will do content about it and show people how to play, but also I cannot change much because there are like 2 flex spots basically in this deck that I would try to change, maybe like the brawl, 1 brawl and 1 let it go, and that's it. But both cards has the purpose, right? Like the brawl is only in here. Sometimes you need to brawl the Flint. Sometimes you need to, not sometimes, you need always to brawl the Diablo. The let it go, for example, is really mid. The first one you will always ink. The second one though is the one that you will search in the late game. And funny enough, it was always mid until the top 4. And I only put the legos in for random cards like Mufasa, Purple Hades, and Gantu. And I hit a Gantu in top 4.
Nice.
I would have lost that. And my opponent played only 1 Gantu. And I was like, for sure he has it. And I inked something else instead of the second Lego. And suddenly, directly next turn after I got the Lego, he played Gantu. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. That's why I was laughing in the stream if you watch it. Overall, the deck is at the end of set 6, yes, but can only get better. That's something that people maybe don't realize yet, because this deck is already really strong into the field, right? Okay, let's say it's set 7. Now, anything that boost the normal red-blue, as long as it's not a super expensive card, will also boost this list. In general, why I developed this, or why I started to develop this kind of list was I realized, okay, from set 4 to 5, was the speed of the game was still fine-ish. Set 6, because of the power creep, natural power creep of a game that is so vanilla, will boost the speed automatically. We will just get more 2 lore bodies that are cheap. We would automatically get better effects on the low drops, right? 1, 2, 3. That's a given fact. Like that, you cannot stop that. That's the nature. Otherwise, nobody would buy new sets, right? If your old low drops are good enough. So what they would do is like they will speed the game up. automatic. That means at some point the game will be too fast for the control red blue, or you have to run like too many of the weird uninkable tech cards. So that's why I developed this list. And so now this list is much faster than the normal one, and you can still include like more tech cards if you want to beat the early game. So that means, let's say set 7 gets again a bit more faster or significantly faster. I just put whatever new tools I can get, or maybe some of the old tools in this deck, and I will be still much faster than the normal Ruby Sapphire. So for set 7, I think this deck is really strong. I will just see what they will release and adjust accordingly. But in general, the gameplay is like, it's like so under the radar of people. It caught people off guard. But in general, when you look at the list, Goofy was being played before, but not as a 4-off. Shark was being played as a 2 to 4-off. Not always as a 4-off, most of them as a 3-off. Mana was being played before. There's nothing new. Like Lego was being played. I just changed the ratio basically and put the deck into a more focused game plan than just some control, some burn.
Right.
I just went full.
You went
full go to 20.
all in on a dedicated game plan, and I love that story. I love how it worked out. I mean, you bet on yourself. You went down to Australia. You had your own build, and it all came together through all this testing and preparation. I think that is what's required. I mean, a lot of people think that a lot of you top players, a lot of you pro players, you guys get there by accident, and it's not. It takes it seems like you had an incredible amount of dedication, incredible amount of work that went into this, and you got the results because of the work that you put in. So I think that's incredibly motivational, and lets you know that if you guys are willing to put in that level of work, you can also get to where Kong is right now. But I got to ask, so Worlds is coming up. We don't have a date yet for it. Are you preparing? How are you preparing? What are you doing to get your mind and body right for the World Championship? We don't even know what cards we're going to be playing. We don't have a date, but still, are you mentally preparing, or how are you focusing on getting set up for Worlds?
Right now I literally do nothing for Worlds. The problem is, like, I would prepare. So let's say I don't have the date, but at least I have the cards, the set 7 cards. Then I would grind all day.
Yeah.
Set 7, and even though I don't know if it's like in a month or in 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. At least I have the set that we probably will play in to test, right? So I can develop something like really spicy and see what everybody else is playing, and then decide to counter it or not. Sometimes you have to decide to either you want to counter something or you want to be the one who puts the threat on the table, right? And for this last year, I was the one who was putting the threat, right? But yeah, we don't know anything about set 7, so there's not much you can do, because whatever you do, prepare for set 6 now, it's not that great. What I like to do, what I actually do, is not developing lists or something, but improving my fundamentals with every other color combination, because maybe I won't play Ruby Sapphire, right? If the set 7 pushes Ruby Sapphire out of the meta, which I don't think, but there's a possibility, right? Maybe everything gets so fast that Ruby Sapphire is actually too slow, or not too slow, but you will get just a better win rate with something else. Then I have to play, right? And that's something that people also have to realize, that you when it's the off season, or when you don't have like tournaments for the next 2 months, because there's no set champs, there's no other small tournaments that you go, but you still have like the free time to test. You should test like different decks, right? You should test, like, let's say Amethyst Steel. Then you will learn how to run it, because even in the color combinations and even with the same deck list, you can still play a bit more faster. You can decide to play a bit slower. So you need to learn the fundamentals, when you need to push, when you don't need to push, and that's something that takes time. Probably also takes like 200, 300 matches for each color combination, maybe also 400, 500, until you really master it. I'm talking about mastering it. DLC champ, Zan Zaid level, or like Ed level, my level, whatever. Like to reach that level of mastery. And then when the DLC start again, you're already ready. You're prepared. You have your fundamentals, you have your knowledge, and then you will crush it. If you start when they announce the DLC, let's say you have 1 month until the next one, or 2 months, and then you start, and then you have your life obligations on, then it gets difficult now. And now, I don't know, the next DLC maybe will be in like 4 or 6 months, roughly. Until that, you can be like a Lorcana master without even playing one single DLC,
That's smart.
And for that, like, there are guides online, right? Coaching. I also offer coaching on my deck list and so on, right? There's like different tools, or you just try and error through or the matches also possible. Like just if you want to improve in Lorcana and want to put in the work, just put in the work now. As long as we have the off season, so you can profit from the time. You know, like you don't have to go like 50 matches each night or so. But I'm just saying like you can start now playing like 5 matches each day. That's not much, right? Or like 2 or 3 only. But when you do, always have a goal in mind, what you want to figure out. Like, well, do you want to figure out how to play your curve? Do you want to figure out how today I want to play a bit more aggressive against everything? Or do I want to play more controlish, mid-rangey? But yeah, always have a goal in mind and test with a purpose. And then you will get there. And if you need help, always hit up a pro. They have like meta fights, they have guys, and you can also ask them. Most of the time, people are answering DMs. I also answer a lot of DMs. Like I get bombarded by DMs, so I try my best to answer everything.
I do appreciate that, man. I'm glad you do that. We do need great ambassadors for the game, and you do bring up a great point, man. Just always focus. I'm learning a lot, so I'm going to take some of these tips because I want to be like you someday at some point. You know, I don't have the skills yet, but maybe someday it can happen. DKP, but we'll see. But last thing, a couple of things I want to ask. I bring people on, and a part of the series I want to add, and you kind of touched on to it earlier, is top 5 players of this year. Okay, this is the first year of competitive Lorcana. History is in the making right now. That's why I want to get players like you on to kind of come in and tell your story. But I want to hear from you. Top 5 players in the game not named you. Who are your top 5 right now?
First would be Ed.
Okay.
Ed Manchu. Second, Zain Zaid. But only Zain would be first, but for me, Ed is first because he won the NA Continentals. Both are also DLC champion, but Ed just did a bit more. So Ed. Then the third one is a bit more difficult. I have like multiple names. I don't know if I can name. They are of course all like at the top because they won an event. Anybody who won and like let's say like get 1 or 2 more tops, like definitely in the discussion of best players of the season. Else like Dale Belido was always for me like a huge figure in the scene and he inspired me to get better also. So for best contention, I would also say someone like Jonathan Williams. He unfortunately got like he would have definitely topped his NA contention, but he got DQ'd unfortunately. So that's unfortunate. But else he topped like also 4 DLCs I think. So it's really consistent player. Zach Bivens also has like 4 tops I think. Unfortunately his run always stopped like quite not that far in, like top 16 I think. But yeah, I guess it happens. Like from European side, also the winner is TO Team, Frank Carsten, Federico Micozzi is my fellow Yu-Gi-Oh friend, right? He won DLC Birmingham, for example. Then we have Hitsu, here, Jan Moyen, Valfo Tapa, like insane players. So these would be like the players I have in mind right now. There are of course more, but
it's
always
okay.
Difficult to determine.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to increase it from 5. I think 5 is too few because there's so many great players in this game, and you don't want to leave anybody off. So I understand. But the last thing I like to do before we leave, we gotta do Spitfire round. Are you ready? I'm gonna throw some cards at you, and you let me know what you think about these cards. If they're and just your first initial thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna throw them at you, and you just throw it back. You ready?
Okay.
All right, let's do it. First one is going to be Tamatoa. What do you think about Tamatoa, the big crab? Is he still around?
Great card.
Great card. Okay, next one. McDuck Manor. McDin Manor, we call
Insane card.
Insane card.
Overstated. Such a design mistake. Yeah.
Broken. Okay, broken. All right, next one. We talked about this with Big Sisu. A lot of people might be cutting it. A lot of people think it's a staple. What are your thoughts?
Decent card.
Decent card.
She's like to be honest, like in my entire run in Lorcana, I think I run her twice at two events of 9. She's all right.
Next one, Maui, Hero to All.
One of the best turn 5 cost cards. I think the best 5 cost card.
Best 5 cost card. I love that. That's a strong take. Now we're getting into the spice bag a little bit. Are you ready? We're going off the deep end. Fan the Flames. What do you think about Fan the Flames?
Spicy. I thought about playing it.
Yeah, really. Same with,
but it's too much gimmick in the end, yeah, but really spicy.
Fan the Flames and go to distance. They're kind of in the same. Go to distance is kind of like in the same.
Go to distance a bit better because you draw a card, right? So
okay. So go to distance above Fan the Flames. Got it. Okay, now we're still in the spice tank a little bit. We're going to talk about Raya, the 4 calls Raya.
Overhyped, in my opinion, because you need to open like literally how far I go with that. Like you need to open how far go Rush Maui and Raya. So I don't really like that combination.
To mid, give it mid. Okay.
Yeah.
And the last one I'm going to talk about is a card that I like a lot. It's called Gaston, the intellectual powerhouse. What do you think about this card?
Oh, he's funny. I think I tried him one time, but the problem about digging three is like sometimes you hit like two good cards or three good cards, and then you will be mad. Like it's like with visions, but visions you can. It's cheaper, you know. It's also inkable and so on, but it's risky. It's risky.
All right.
So for me, he's like also mid.
All right, that was the last one, man. I love it, man. And I gotta say, dude, you gave me a lot of information here. There's a lot of things that I've learned. I think I've gotten better as a player. So if you guys learned something from this video, make sure you get into the comment section. Let us know what you learned, and also while you're down there, go ahead and like and subscribe. And also while you're down there, make sure you get on to the description. His link to his channel will be in the description. He goes into more details about this deck on his profile. He's gonna be putting out more Lorcana content from a high-level pro player, which is very rare. So make sure you get over there and check him out, show him some support, so he'll keep putting that content out in the future. But DKP, man, I gotta thank you so much, Kong, for coming by and talking to me about your story, man. I learned a lot, and sharing some of your information with me. It was so nice to meet you and get to know you. Is there any special shout outs you want to give before we wrap this thing up and sign it on off?
Yeah, shout outs to my team, White Colors Cards. They helped me a lot with traveling and testing and so on. And yeah, in general, thank you for everybody who comes to me and always say hello, give me like courage and encourage me to do better. And yeah, thank you everybody.
Of course. And thank you so much again. Well, my fellow Illumineers, that's all I have at this time. Until next time, I'm JDZ. I'm on a quest. Shout out to the real ones. Salute to the OGs. Peace.